right, and it is 4:02. Welcome, Jose. Glad to see you. So let's begin our journey because it is 4:02. And so one of the things that I loved about this book when I was working with the artist team at Solution Tree was the image of the book. And as you know, the phrase that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And so when I saw this image, after many back and forth of navigating it to get it just right, 1,000 words and phrases come to my mind. And so I'd invite you to take a moment, think about the images on this front cover. And aside from the word balance, it seems like that one comes up a lot from folks. So let's set that aside, the word balance. What other words or phrases come to mind? Chat those in the chat box. And why are those words or phrases important to our work? Take a moment to do that. Focus. Yeah, ensuring that we're focused on the right work. Building blocks. Yeah, building blocks. And the larger blocks are on the bottom, right? So you've got foundational elements that allow these things to build on each other. Abby, support. Yeah, leaning on each other. Jackie, also support and supporting team leaders, supporting each other. So many, non-uniform. Yeah, thank you. Every group I've been with has pulled up different aspects of what this book or the cover brings up to mind. And some of the things in addition to everything that you've mentioned, by the way, I've got it on the screen over here. That's why I'm looking over here at your chats. Some of the things that really come to my mind are this idea of skill. Not only is there balance involved in these rocks, but there's skill. I've also been told that this shape is called a cairn, C-A-I-R-N, and hikers in the woods leave these for each other to mark out the direction that they should go. I also love at the top where you've got the word teacher is in a different font than team leader. And the word teacher actually is kind of like, it's opaque. It's got like that white background as opposed to the other background that the others have, really highlighting the word teacher. And that purple image is, you've heard the phrase, think outside the box. The front cover is framed by that green box, but the forward motion, moving forward to the right and knowing that we're thinking outside the box as we move forward. So the fundamental premise of the work of this book is this, that no one of us, no matter how much we know, how much skill we might possess, or how much innate talent any of us have, none of us by ourselves can meet the needs of every child in our classroom or in our school. That's the fundamental premise of this work. And so if that's true, if it's true that none of us can meet the needs of every kid in the classroom, and if it's true that the most promising way to improve student learning is through the implementation of PLC principles and processes, and if it's true that in the implementation of those PLC processes, the team is the engine for growth, and if it's true that in order for the team to be effective, you've got to have somebody in a designated role ensuring that there's effectiveness. If all of these things are true, if, then what does a teacher team leader need to know in order to be successful? That's what we're here for. So today, in this quick 30-minute little session, we're going to explore two things. One is, what are the responsibilities, assumptions, and mindsets of effective teacher team leaders? And we're going to take those and apply some beginning moves, techniques, and strategies to a story, a vignette of a real life teacher team leader. Now, I realize that some of you might be in a teacher team leader role, others are in a principal role, others are in a district office role. I know that some of the people who signed up, they're not on here at this point, but they'll be watching it on the video, are state office role. So no matter your role, you can be thinking about this content through the lens of the teacher team leaders that you might be supporting. You can also think about this through your own leadership perspective, because these concepts apply equally to any level of leadership. So this is our agenda then, based on those outcomes. So welcome, glad to have you all here. Thank you for taking 30 minutes to engage in some fast-paced learning around these concepts. We're going to just briefly explore the responsibilities, assumptions, and mindsets. Some actions. I'm going to share with you 40 actions that teacher team leaders take to maximize effectiveness. And we'll just take a look at the getting started ones, and then leave a little bit of time at the end for a little bit of Q&A and next steps. So you've probably heard this quote that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. I'd like to propose that that's actually wrong. That the journey of 1,000 miles begins with facing the right direction. If we're not facing the right direction, that journey of 1,000 miles might be 2,000 miles or 3, right? We never get there. So it begins with facing the right direction. So facing the right direction starts with who you are as a leader, in addition to what you do. And so who you are as a leader comes down to being really clear about what is the role of the teacher team leader. What are the responsibilities? I propose 3 responsibilities. What are some helpful assumptions and mindsets that lead to action? That's who you are. That's all internally. And then what we do together as a team are the actions. And so I've divided these into moves and techniques, which are things that you as the teacher team leader do, and then strategies, which are things we do together. So I do and we do. And you'll notice, like the magician's hat, I picked that image because there's 3 moves in particular that are like magic. And when you use those, it's amazing. They're like magic. And then the strategies, of course, in the toolbox. So facing the right direction. Facing the right direction begins with clarity about what is the purpose of the team. What's the purpose of the collaborative team? And when you ask people, if you ask a team of 5 people, what's the purpose of this collaborative team? You might get 5 different responses. Someone might be to say, oh, well, we're here to support each other. Another one might be, well, we're here to implement the curriculum the district gave us. Or we're here to plan lessons for each other. Or we're here to make sure that our buses and field trips run smoothly. And I would propose none of those are the purpose of the team. The purpose of the team comes from Ken Williams, and I love the succinctness of it. It's 4 parts. First of all, it's to guarantee learning. It's to guarantee learning. That's the most important thing. By the way, I'm also going to throw back in the chat here, just in case you haven't seen it yet. I'm going to put that link to my website that has the handout and slides on it. So if you weren't able to get those earlier today, that's linked in there. So you can take notes if that's helpful for you. Guarantee learning. That's the purpose of the team. That's a high bar. And it's not annual learning. It's to guarantee the learning of what the team decides. What the team decides is grade level, and what they decide is essential, what kids have to know. The only people who can guarantee learning are the classroom teacher and that team. So that's the purpose of the team. That helps us face the right direction. So let's pause for just a moment. Jot down either in the handout or in the chat, what are some ahas, amens, or no's, or oh no's that you're having as I just shared with you the purpose of the team. Thank you, Clint. Yeah, classroom teacher is the only one. Yeah, guaranteed learning for all students. Yeah, yeah. It's not just for the ones who come to school ready to learn, right? Whose parents take them to the zoo on the weekend and to the museums in the summer and read to them at night. Every kid. Guarantee learning. That's a high bar. That's the purpose of the team. So now that we've got our direction set, now let's go into some responsibilities, assumptions, and mindsets. And so I propose that there are 3 responsibilities for a teacher team leader. The first 2, nobody ever talks about. Everybody talks about the third one. And I would offer to you that the first 2 are actually the most important of the 3 responsibilities. So the first responsibility of a teacher team leader is to make it safe, to make the space psychologically safe. I'm not talking about physical safety. We're talking about psychological safety, to make the space psychologically safe. Duhigg, in his groundbreaking study with Google, a massive study with some 200 teams at Google, found that there were two characteristics that contributed to psychological safety. One is social sensitivity. That's the degree to which members read appropriately and respond appropriately to each other's nonverbal communication moves and signals. That's hard to teach. The moves and techniques in my book are all about those nonverbal communication skills. The second thing that Duhigg's study found, that in order to make it safe, psychologically safety, so the first thing is social sensitivity. The second is equity of turn taking. That means everybody in the group, more or less, contributes at roughly the same amount. You don't have one person dominating, another person sitting silent. Equity of turn taking. That's the first responsibility of teacher team leader. And if you don't have psychological safety, good luck with everything else. The second responsibility of the teacher team leader is to build capacity. To build capacity. That's all about helping each other learn why we're doing the work and how we're doing the work. And then the third responsibility, the least important in my opinion, is to actually do the work. And you ask most teacher team leaders, what's your job? They'll tell you, well, I got to turn in these minutes. I got to make sure this form goes to this person. I got to do that, right? They talk about doing the work. That's actually the least important. And my book doesn't talk about that at all. There's lots of other books that talk about that. This book focuses on psychological safety and building capacity. So in order to do those three responsibilities, I propose 5 assumptions. Now, an assumption is something that we hold to be true. That doesn't make it a fact. So some of these may not necessarily be so, but I may have to hallucinate it about other people. And when I assume it, I will treat them differently. So the first assumption that effective teacher team leaders have, I propose, is that people do the best that they can. Again, I may have to hallucinate it. There might be people who aren't doing the best that they can, but if I hallucinate, if I assume that they are doing the best that they can, I will treat them differently than if I don't assume that. The second assumption, this one might be as close to a fact as possible because I've yet to figure out how I can control other people. Like I can't even control my dog. You can only control you. And when you have that assumption that you can only control you, that changes how you treat other people. It makes you focus on looking in the mirror as opposed to out the window, right? Looking in the mirror at myself. What are my behaviors that are influencing the situation as opposed to looking at the window at others? So that's the second assumption. The third one is that behavior does communicate. People are telling us something by their behavior, and we have to be aware of that, pay attention to it. The fourth assumption that I offer is that really people do want to get stuff done. Oops, sorry. People want to get stuff done. I have never met a teacher that walks out of a meeting and goes, oh, goody, that was another 60 minutes. I'm never going to get back. Unless they're being sarcastic. People want to get stuff done. So if we assume that, now we can behave as if that's the case. And the fifth assumption is one, it's probably my favorite, that conflict is good. Maybe you've heard the saying that if there's 3 people in the room, 2 of us are unnecessary. Conflict is good. The problem is that most of the time, conflict becomes affective. It becomes relational. And we want conflict to be cognitive. And so to do that, we need to use the moves, techniques, and strategies that I share in this book to make sure that the conflict stays cognitive and doesn't get relational. So those are the 5 assumptions I propose, and I'll share briefly with you 3 mindsets and give you a chance to kind of process a little bit. So a mindset, the definition of a mindset is an attitude that leads to action. A lot of terms fly around the world very quickly, and we don't really have clarity about what they mean. And this is one of those words, the word mindset. And Harold Dweck popularized the term mindset a few years ago with the notion of fixed versus growth mindset. And so let's be clear that mindset is about action. It's an attitude leading to action. I think there's 3 mindsets that are helpful for a teacher team leader. So the first is to see in others what they may not even see in themselves. Notice it starts with a verb because it's action. So each of these starts with a verb. So the first one is to see in others. And when you see in others what they may not even see in themselves, that allows you to then draw out from them their very best. The second mindset is to be humble with a posture of learning. I started this time together with that quote that none of us has enough knowledge, skills, or talent to meet the need of every kid in our classroom. It requires humility. And so when we are humble with that posture of learning and saying, I don't know more than do this, or tell me more versus offering solutions, that that demonstrates that humble posture of learning. And the final mindset I would offer to you, spreading the contagion of joy. Somebody recently shared with me, everybody brings joy wherever they go. Some when they enter the room, some when they leave. Be the person who brings the joy when you enter the room. Emotions are contagious, unlike knowledge, right? You walk into a room, nobody knows what you're thinking, but they know what you're feeling. So spread that contagion of joy. All right, pause for a second here. Thinking about the responsibilities, the assumptions, and the mindsets in the chat or in your handout. Take a moment, pause. What next steps might you see for yourself? Welcome, Nora. We're just taking a moment to jot down our thoughts based on the content we just had. Welcome. And welcome, Christina. Glad to have you here. We're just taking a moment to jot down some thoughts. And I just put the link in the chat. No worries, Nora. You're welcome. No worries. I put the link in the chat, so you can access the slides and handout. Thank you. Julie, all of these mindsets have an element of curiosity. Yeah. Curiosity. A colleague of mine, she says that, if you start to feel yourself getting furious, pause and get curious. Thank you. Clint, guiding coalition, becoming a PLC. Yeah, and learn from each other about how to lead. Yeah, exactly. Kirk, helping his team leaders make their teams psychologically safe. Yes, and modeling this. Love that. Jackie. Yeah, the second attitude. No one, yeah, humble posture of learning. No one has all the answers. So, beautiful. Let's now move into the second outcome for this 30 minutes. I told you this was fast. Here we go. Like, poof, drink out of water hose. Here we go. So we're just going to share a handful of simple actions. So these are the getting started actions, and they're divided in two parts, as I kind of intimated earlier. So the first is moves and techniques. These are things that you yourself do. Nobody else can control that, only you can. And that's the majority of those 40 techniques and moves. The second kind of actions that the teacher team leader takes are things that we do together. Those are the strategies. So there are 40 of them. They're listed for you on the screen as well as in your handout. We're not going to go through all of them. That would take literally days. So here's what we'll do is we'll just take a minute and pause. And as you look at these, first of all, you'll notice I just put some lines on there. That kind of divides the chunks of getting started, gaining momentum, overcoming obstacles, and refining your skills. Those are the four chunks that I have in the book, are those four chunks. And you'll notice that the strategies only has three, because refining your skills are only about you. So that's why that only has three. And so as you look at this list, just take a moment and jot down which of these do you know and put a circle around those. Which of those do you not know and underline them? And which of those do you know so well that you could teach somebody else? So like the first level of no is, yeah, I think I know what that is. But the second level of no, put a star around it if that's what I know this well enough. I could teach somebody else what this is. Take about 60 seconds and just briefly look through that. And press pause, please. Wherever you are is just perfect. I know you haven't gotten through all of them. That's okay. It's just kind of a first glance at them. In the book, if you have the book, each of them has a description of what it is. It has everyone has at least one tool to help with implementation. Every single one of them has reflective questions because it is a handbook. It's designed to be used to help improve practice. Most of them have next level tips. And so those next level tips take multiple moves, techniques, and strategies and combine them together. Vignettes, real life stories. We're going to take a look at one here in a second. And those are real world stories and how that teacher team leader applied that learning from that chapter. And then the last chapter is completely real world challenges that, as I was writing this book, teacher team leaders would ask me, how do you address this, that, or the other thing? And so those are all real world challenges, pulling together all of the learning from the book. So as we look at one of the vignettes that is on page 5 of the handout or page 79 of the book, think about how would you advise Tamisha, this teacher Tamisha? So I'm just going to read it for you, and you think about how you would advise her. So Tamisha is a high school teacher team leader who's new to the role, but not new to teaching. Her team of 3 other 9th grade teachers meet weekly for 1 hour as part of a regular scheduled early release that the district has for all teachers to collaborate. Sound probably familiar, right? Well, Tamisha is in her 16th year of teaching. 2 of the 3 others are new. One is fresh out of college, another has 4 years of experience but is new to this school, and the fourth is a veteran of 28 years who speaks regularly of retirement being right around the corner. Can you see any of those teachers in your situation? The team is traditionally met in the team leader's classroom for their meetings, and Tamisha's is organized in 3 rows with 2 desks side by side and parallel to each other in each row, facing a whiteboard at the front of the room. Tamisha's desk is at the back of the room. While the team is mostly collegial, they enjoy each other's company, the team struggles with following through on decisions. Significant chunks of time are spent trying to remember what has been decided previously. Frequent refrains you might hear from members of the team include, what do we need to talk about today? Or do we even need to meet this week? I sure could use the time to grade papers. Or do I need to bring my laptop today? The teacher with 4 years of experience rarely speaks up, and the brand new teacher is a proverbial wild card for how they might interact with the team because no one has served with them previously. So here's how I might offer that Tamisha would address this. And on page 6, it lays it out in a narrative form, but I'll just offer to you a few thoughts here of how she might approach this. So first of all, the physical arrangement of the room. She has it all facing the forward, right? Not very collaborative. And so we need to rearrange that. There are not norms established, so we need to establish norms and roles for each member. So you can see on the right-hand side, working through the strategies, right? So she decides at her first meeting to make sure that they start with inclusion. The inclusion is different than icebreakers. Icebreakers just tick off about half the people in the room. And when people are ticked off, that doesn't help with collaboration. So instead, she starts with an inclusion, and inclusion has 3 purposes. It first is to focus mental energy in the room. Second is that to get everybody's voices in the room. And third is to build community as we connect with each other in the content. And so she starts that first meeting, and you can see in the thing, with a meme that she projects on the whiteboard that says something to the effect of, it says, here, I'll just read it. Are you lonely? Do you work on your own or hate making decisions? Hold a meeting. You can see people, you can draw flow charts, feel important, and impress your colleagues, all on your organization's time. Meetings, the practical alternative to work. So she posts that to get people laughing. And when people laugh, they're breathing. You can't laugh. You can't laugh without breathing. And when you're breathing and you're laughing, you're developing group rapport. This is all projected on a screen for everybody to see, which has that third point where the agenda is also then projected for that first meeting and subsequent meeting. And then finally, she reminds herself, she puts on a little sticky note. She puts the all capitals PAUSE on a sticky note, puts it on her computer to remind herself to pause as they engage in their interaction. So that's how she would go about it. So let's just take a moment. What I've shared with you in the handout there on page 7 is a space for you to jot down your thoughts. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? What are your thoughts? Take 30 seconds, jot down your thoughts. If you want to put them in the chat, please feel free to do so. All right, and press pause, please. Fast paced. We're getting close to 4:30, and so I want to point out to you that there are a ton of resources on my website, the same website where you registered for this, tinyurl.com/TTLH Chad. That stands for Teacher Team Leader Handbook Chad. There's about 50 different downloadable reproducibles. They're also available on the Solution Tree website. You can get them all there. The difference is on Solution Tree, they're PDFs. On mine, they're Google Docs. So you can make copy of them and edit them to your heart desires for mine. My website also has a few additional ones that didn't make it into the book. And like, as I've been working with people, they've asked for things. So I've like just added a few here and there. There's also a link to my YouTube channel where I do 60-second simple habits tips once a week, release those. And those are inspired by the book, but they're not geared towards teachers. They're towards anybody. Simple habits to transform yourself, relationships, and collaborations. Of course, you already know that the book is available on Solution Tree, and our time together was on these two things. So to make sure that we explored those responsibilities, mindsets, and assumptions, and then apply those getting started actions to transform team. So it is 4:30. Look at that. So does anybody have questions, comments, thoughts that you'd like to like unmute and ask about? I want to honor your time. If you need to head on out, please feel free to, but I want to give an opportunity for any questions or answers that you might have. All right, well, you know my contact information. That's listed on the screen for you and in the handout. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Happy to serve in any ways that I can. Have you all selves a fantastic rest of your week. And if you want to stay on and ask any questions or just chat, feel free to do that. Have a great rest of your week, y'all.